Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hey, hello there.
We are recording, and how did that get there?
Well, I think it's kind of appropriate in a lot of ways.
Oh boy, now the truth's coming out.
Yep, it is.
The truth is coming out. We have a drought.
We do, and they do have to tell the truth.
Yeah, it's getting really tough out there.
Yeah, it is.
It is. I mean, our feel-like temperature right now is like 109. It's up there. And I looked at the 10-day, as I was saying, 96 is our low. That's the lowest high temperature we're going to have. And we're actually going to have temps of 100 where we have 85% humidity. But personally, I don't mind it. That's just me. I'd rather have that than cold, snow, misery, etc.
Yeah, he gets cranky when it's super cold.
So please do subscribe to Evolutionary Energy Arts as well as EEARTS, and have that little bell clicked, and hopefully we'll get some notifications. Evolutionary has about 3-4 more days of time out. Meanwhile, here we see Lake Mead's steady decline hits low water mark. I've been feeling for quite a while, actually, that it's going to be really tough in August. I keep getting the feeling like August is going to be a brutal month. Really all the way from Nevada, I think, to Texas. And you know what? It's starting early. It absolutely is starting early. Lake Mead's at 29% right now. 29%. That's pretty serious because the drought is increasing and it has no signs going anywhere.
And we definitely have a lot of family members over that way, and we're watching for them too.
Absolutely. And there's been a lot of bodies uncovered that were in there from gosh knows when. And it's just interesting to see the changes across the globe, but we're just getting started when it comes to those changes. How about this? Scientists warn of poisonous air if Utah's Great Salt Lake dries up. There's a potential climate catastrophe forming in Utah's Great Salt Lake. It has shrunk to 1/3 of the original size. And scientists warn if it continues to dry up, it may expose heavy metals in the lake bed that could become airborne. Oh, that's just what this world needs. And, again, what's happening now, it's inconvenient for most people. It's getting a little bit scary for many. A challenge, absolutely. Juggling, the bills and how you're going to pay this, how you're going to pay that when everything is going so incredibly off the charts expensive. Yet, over in certain areas of the globe, there are people already dying because of starvation and because of lack of water.
We do, and we're going to have choices that we're going to need to make. But actually, one of those choices, while we're all going through these really difficult times, one thing that is really important and that we can do is use our energy to help these other areas of the earth and other people in the planet that are suffering. We can send them good vibes, and that will it'll really, really help them. And we can't forget that we always can help with our energy, always.
Yeah, Somalia has 16 million people, and half of them, 8 million people, are going to be facing acute food shortages, as the worst drought in decades is compounded by the grain shortages caused by the Russian invasion of Ukraine. And we've had some really interesting discussions with David Devine, DAP 2030, about, again, where is it going to hit first? And it is. It's going to hit many people in Africa. Africa is very, very vulnerable. But yet, at the same time, some areas in Africa are going to become bread baskets. And, the climate is completely changing. And we really are at the mercy of many things. Mother Nature, she wants to make it easy for her kids. Obviously, there's a lot of technology involved as well that's making things even more challenging. It's just really so sad. And this one mother's watched 4 of her kids die this year because of the drought. And again, because of the lack of food. And then again, as Cindy, when we were discussing this, all this adds up to immune compromised situations and people that get sick because they're in such a weakened state. And of course there's other factors in us having weakened immune systems and being in weakened states all over the globe.
Well, it is really, really interesting how there's all these food shortages coming up, and when people lose mass amounts of weight, if you lose it quickly and you're not really careful, that really can have a big effect on your immune system, because you lose blood too. So there's a lot at stake. There's a lot going on here.
And one thing that we really got to look closely at policies around this world that governments have put into action for decades, and that have been really, really counterintuitive. Like when you tell people, oh, the 46 administration's paying farmers more money not to farm. This was a year ago. You can see here the Biden administration announced Wednesday it would expand the program that pays farmers to leave land fallow, part of a broader government-wide effort to cut greenhouse gas emissions in half by 2030. Well, if people are starving to death en masse, that might cut greenhouse gas emissions.
It's really horrible. Yeah.
Think about this. Lives could have been saved already in certain countries that are very, very poor if other countries were able to even just grow what they could. If we have all these billionaires out there, and that especially some that think of themselves as philanthropists, there's Gil Bates that comes to mind. You always hear about his philanthropy. Really? Okay. Well, why not use some of your money to feed Somalia, to take care of the people that are starving in Yemen? Why are we actually paying farmers not to grow food when look at what's on the horizon? Perhaps one of the biggest famines that we've ever seen, certainly in these times, absolutely in modern times. Yeah, because they want to cut greenhouse gas emissions in half. Well, I thought the poles were going to be melted by now, Al Gore. They're not melted. In fact, yeah, there was an article I was going to include, but it decided to keep it more focused on this. But it was basically saying that Arctic sea ice volume is at the highest point since 2013, seems to be building. So, yeah, the poles haven't melted, but people are hungry. People have compromised immune systems from malnutrition and other reasons as well.
And all of these other entities that have a lot of money, they're constantly flying around their big jets, driving their cars, and, you would think that they could cut some of their emissions to allow food for others.
Oh, yeah, the Davos crowd, they all flew in on private jets. It's just a joke. They are the biggest hypocrites in the world. You have the Department of Agriculture, USDA, rents about 21 million acres of farmland from landowners, typically for 10 years at a time. That's interesting. And so a lot of that will just sit dormant. We've talked about the fact that there's crown land, which just boggles my mind, in Canada and in Australia. And I understand, as some of the citizens have said, well, that's, environment that's to be protected, and that's why it's under the protection of the crown. There shouldn't be any crowns on this planet. There is no royalty. That's just, to me, that's complete BS. The idea of royalty and certain bloodlines ruling others, I think it's just a travesty. It's just a joke. It's a thought that needs to be eradicated from the entirety of the planet. The aristocracy. And then, when you look to Russia, for instance, as I was, catching Cindy up on some Russian history and the time of the revolution, the end of the czars, and, you jump out of the frying pan into the fire is what you do. You trade a bad government for something that's even worse, because that's what we've had through history. Because, again, it's really ruled by greed, power, lust, control. As long as we have that controlling the planet, we're never going to get anywhere.
No, we're not. And, they do sit in their tall towers, and You know, they're just not too worried about what's going on with everything all around them. And it does get frustrating, you know, but it always brings us back to, why would humans do this to other humans? And we've talked about this so many times. And once you start putting these pieces together, it totally starts to make sense. But this is why we really need to start helping each other, you know, because we do care about one another, and we shouldn't let a different kind of an entity make it so that we can't feed our own children and ourselves.
Yeah, and fact check. Yes, despite the supply chain crisis, some farmers are being paid not to grow food. Insanity. The USDA pays $1.3 billion in crop subsidies. Where did that money come from? Us? Yeah. Our freaking taxes. Excuse me. Obviously. I mean, it really just absolutely disgusts me to send any money to the federal government. When we look at the way things are done and how they spend, and how so much money goes into maiming, killing people instead of supporting life, truly, it's just a travesty. And, you know, many people don't agree with the government's policies. And, you know, this is farmers that don't. They just don't understand it. We could be growing a lot more food. We could be helping a lot more people. The government doesn't want us to. How crazy is that? The federal government of the United States is offering farmers 1.5 times the value of their crops. If farmers destroy the crops, if the farmers decline the offer, then the same government will stop all farm subsidies for refusing. Hello, can you see the bigger picture? The level of delusion is insane. Yeah, I mean, do you feel bad for these people? Well, I mean, obviously they get paid pretty well. You know, the last one, obviously, you know, she probably just couldn't take it anymore. So she'll be a talking head, you know, on the political shows. This has got to be one of the most brutal jobs in the world, if you are awake and if you understand the bigger picture. Because you're getting paid to basically spin all day long. I just don't know how you could do it and not have your soul be completely tarnished. I could never do it. No, I would be just like, oh, yeah, I would do a horrible job. The level of delusion is insane. Negative 1.4% GDP growth in the first quarter, 41-year high inflation rate, no baby formula, food shortages, applications for mortgage now down 21 points. Yeah, yet they're spinning it. She said, what we're trying to say is the economy is in a better place than it has been historically. You're an idiot if you believe that.
I know. I mean, they are going to spin it to the best of their ability, and they'll never stop doing that. That part's never going to change.
I think the sheeple are awakening. And ultimately they will awaken. And when that whole flock gets some steam behind them and understands what's going on, they won't be acting like sheep anymore. And they won't keep heading straight to that cliff. Keep going? You sure, boss? Keep going? You sure? It's looks pretty steep down there.
Yeah, and people are going to really start catching on.
As the 46th inflationary catastrophe explodes, stock markets plunged deeper into the red on Friday after data showed U.S. inflation soared to the highest in over 40 years, much higher than expected. Yet when they give us like these official numbers and say, well, it's only 8.6% inflation. Yeah, but when you look at what it really is, and again, the spin is always, it's just disgusting to see the spin. It's disgusting. It's nauseating. I think the public is nauseated. And we don't even believe that 22% people approve of 46. How could 22% approve? How could 81 million say, yeah, this is the future? There's no way. Even if it was a negative vote against 45, there's no way it was that big. Absolutely no way it was that big. We know we can't trust any numbers that they tell us. Luxury home sales. Oh, so the elite now, they plunge 18%. Interest rate shock. Yeah. So everything is starting now to kind of crumble. We even got a sriracha sauce shortage. Say it ain't so. I love me hot sauce.
We're going to try to make our own now.
Yes, we do have some sriracha peppers I just picked. And so, maybe we will. Yep. Maybe we'll bottle it. Maybe we'll sell it. Perhaps. But we're not good entrepreneurs like that. Because we just can't stand the system. Because we wouldn't really, we'd rather trade. Barter and trade, guys.
But Mike is such a good cook, though.
Oh, thank you. U.S. fuel prices surge past record mark. As we know, we're over $5 a gallon. How high will it go? It's going to go a lot higher. And, again, it's going to be cost prohibitive for many people to even just work. Bordering on preposterous, government food strategy tells public to eat venison instead of beef to save the planet. This is from UK. And I have never been to the UK. I do know that it has way more population density than the United States does. So I'm just wondering where all that venison is going to come from.
Good question.
And we were talking about it being hot. It is hot. As you can see, in the Texarkana area, it is toasty. Dallas, toasty. Look at these temps, 111, 112. These feel like because of the heat index, because it's got the humidity factored in. So I was saying to Cindy, we're a good, well over 10 degrees hotter than it was back home over where we used to live. You see a 95-degree temp over there, 99 in Vegas. It's the current heat index. This is going to shift eastward. It's going to be a long summer. And Death Valley eclipses 120 as the south is sizzling. Absolutely. It's very, very dangerous. You got to stay hydrated. Just think about that. You got to stay hydrated. And then think about the lack of water. Think about where we'll be in another year or two with this.
And don't forget your pets.
Absolutely. Watch the pets. Absolutely. Rama and Sita got their first bath today. They got their first bath, as they definitely needed it. I know it was a little bit overdue. We didn't really do it until this point just because they do have a baby pool, so they go into that. But, yeah, it was time to give them a good scrubbing. And Sita is 6 months. 6 months in about 4 days. She'll be 6 months old. And then Ram a week later. And he was just standing on his hind legs. And, yeah, he's going to be as tall as me. He is going to be as tall as me, if not a little bit taller, actually. He's a big old boy. This guy is actually using his car to grill steaks, burgers, and even a cake on top of the hood. That's how hot. This is in Arizona. So yes, the heat dome rose 40 million across Southwest amid power blackout threats. It's coming, guys. You know it's coming. There's been so many warnings in Texas. The grid's going to be taxed. There's other things coming. We could sense it. And some of you can sense it too. Our dear sister Leah and Neil, if you guys are listening, Sister Leah and Brother Neil, back in Asheville. I know the temperature's not that bad over there, but they were sensing something, and many of you guys are sensing that there's some very, very big events that are coming down in the summer. And obviously the drought is one. Blackouts, I think, will be another. I think we'll see the grid stretched in multiple places. And then, of course, we have, the geopolitical, which is something that's just building. It's building to a head. Now, when will that explode? We'll have to see, but it doesn't feel like it's too far off.
No, oh my gosh, it's definitely not far off. They have things just stacking one thing on top of the next, and it's going to break soon.
And this is all why we have to be as prepared as possible. Have backups to backups to backups. We were picking some blackberries and nibbling on them today, and that was a great feeling because we just planted those blackberry plants 10 months earlier. And already, we were getting a decent little harvest. I actually picked up a couple more grape plants that were on clearance, and we're just going to squish things in everywhere we can. And, move forward from there. I think everybody should do whatever you can do. You could keep things in containers if you have to do that, if you're in an apartment situation. As we know, there's a mass exodus going on. People are trying to get out of certain areas like California and then also the bigger cities, looking for that sustainability. So widespread rolling electricity blackouts are possible in the Southwest because of declining energy production due to decommissioning of fossil fuel power plants. Everything. If you look at this, there is no way you can look at this and say, oh, that was probably a poor judgment call. Why would they do that? Oh, that looks a little crazy. Why would they do that all these years ago? Now when we see all these things coming one after another, as it says at the end of the article, some Americans could get a nasty dose of high inflation and power blackouts, just like life in Venezuela. Do you remember when we were listening to everything that was going on in Venezuela just a few years ago, where people were attacking cows in the field because they're that hungry? This is what has been... This is that symphony that's been so orchestrated to such a high degree, all these things coming together exact same time. So you have over 80 million people warned of these high temps after Phoenix and Vegas hit record highs. I have a lot of concerns for that stretch between Phoenix and Vegas. Really, really do.
It's really, really hot. And I mean, even just putting gas in your car can be hazardous there, because if you have a really empty tank and you put gas in it, it goes into the tank and it's so hot it will spit back out. So there's a lot of things you really need to watch out for in this kind of heat.
Just think about this down the line. Are you going to go to insane water bills, insane power bills, insane food costs, and then even rationing of water? Just think about that. And then think about the migration issues as this settles in. There are already people moving from certain areas, as we were saying, due mostly to taxation politics and a lot of different reasons. People are feeling that urge to get somewhere safer, somewhere that's going to be more suitable. Well, what about... There's a lot of people in, say, Vegas and Phoenix. Phoenix is the fifth largest city in the whole country. And without power and without water, it's not livable there.
No, it's a concrete jungle, and that heat radiates off of that concrete, and boy, it gets hot. It's hard to breathe.
You could get water from cactuses, but if you have the millions of people that are living in the Phoenix metro all looking for the cactuses, there won't be any cactuses left soon.
It's really seriously concerning, yes.
It is. It really is. I think people are seeing and feeling this bigger picture. And meanwhile, we see Russian space chief speaks out on UFOs. Aliens might study humans from afar like bacteria. So says the head of a Russian space agency. He believes in the existence of extraterrestrial life that might be a lot more intelligent and technologically advanced than humans. Aliens might also be studying the civilizations of Earth while they stay unnoticed. Absolutely. Absolutely. And, would they look at this world and say, my God, those people are crazy?
Or we could take advantage of that.
Well, they have been. That's the thing.
Right.
They're behind the scenes. Just think about it. If we were controlled by a negative group of extraterrestrials, interdimensionals, wouldn't it make sense that if they were using and utilizing the population of the planet as a workforce, so to speak, as a fuel source, as an energy source, wouldn't it make a lot of sense to do it from behind the scenes? Make people think that they're not even there, so to speak. That way, if they're not there, they can't be blamed.
Right.
If they're not there, they can't have the finger pointed and say that's the enemy.
Right. So, of course they're going to be up there sitting back and looking down and saying, we could do something with this. And, they just might.
And then, of course, you have the class of humans that just want to make sure their lives are as good as possible, so they will sell out everybody else. And then when we look at the political landscape, it makes a lot of sense why things that they do are counterintuitive, like paying farmers not to farm, paying farmers to destroy food when we got a food disaster going on. Things that look like it's just extremely poor planning, poor judgment, bad decisions, one bad decision after another. No. It's just carrying out the will that is passed on to the political puppets from above.
And I guess what really bothers me the most out of this is there's rumor and talk of other entities that are going to come in and save the day. And they just keep saying, oh, don't worry, these other beings are in charge. They're going to fix everything. And as everything is crumbling, as all these shortages just keep coming, as our rights keep getting flushed down the toilet, oh, don't worry, somebody's coming, guys. No, we need to watch out for ourselves.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, we could be cheered on from above, so to speak, by the benevolent beings, but they actually obey the rules of the cosmic law, which again is non-interference. Whereas the ones that have been running the show, they don't care about cosmic law at all. Well, they do to a degree, because they have to let us know what's going on, but they could do it in a veiled way.
Well, they're very karmically in the know.
Absolutely. So do check out evolutionaryenergyarts.com, learn more about us. And we want to thank our Patreons and our supporters on Ko-Fi. We couldn't do it without you guys. Do check out Medicinal Foods. Make sure you use coupon code EEA. Get a discount. It does support the channel. We all need to be boosting our immune systems in these times, and also detoxing. And there's some good, healthy snacks in there. Some yummy yummies that are not so bad.
Very delicious.
Absolutely. As always, guys, God bless. Stay prepared. Namaste.
Namaste.